wanted me to record this. So then I wondered to myself, how is there not value with 624 leads? Well, if there's no value in that, that means they're not converting the leads. That would be the only thing that I could think of. So in other words, 624 leads come in. I got to imagine if they've converted one of those, there's a check in there that's over $1,000. Paying for the system for 3 months is going to be under 600. So closing one deal based off of the 624 leads would rationalize or justify the product, just in terms strictly based in cost. Okay, so my assumption is there's probably no leads in there, and I'm going to call these people up afterwards. But then I also think what the value proposition is for those 88 agents in there who have 757 properties where they have single property websites, virtual tours, it's on smart telephones or smart televisions. You've got your mobile apps. You've got a whole bunch of stuff in here that's benefiting each one of those 757 properties that are divvied up amongst 88 real estate agents. So there's value there that's not considered. Nevertheless, I think that they're not closing them. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about was leads. I want to talk about, what's a good lead, what's a bad lead. And I think so often in this industry, what we do is we get caught up in the idea that if something doesn't close in our time frame in a very linear sense, then that's not a good lead. Okay? So in other words, when a deal comes in, you qualify that person, you're speaking with your decision maker. They want to buy immediately or in the foreseeable future, so you know they're at least looking at houses and you know that's going to close. That's called a lead. That's really called a closing. Okay? So to understand what a lead is, let's understand what a lead is not. A lead is not strictly cold calling out of the old proverbial white pages. Because somebody who you're just going to call and say, do you want to buy a house, you've established absolutely nothing with that person. You don't know if they want to buy, if they can buy, if it's the right time. You don't know anything about them. But once we've established one of 4 criteria, and you've probably heard this acronym before, but it's called BANT. Okay? So BANT stands for budget, authority, need, and timeline. So once we start to qualify those things, we can take somebody from a prospect to a lead, from a lead over to a client. So when I say we've got somebody like maybe it's your brother or one of your real estate agent's sisters who's selling a house, you've done 3 deals for them. Well, you know that one's going to close because you know the person's going to have the budget. You're speaking with the decision maker being authority. You know it's a need. They're selling their house. They're going to have to replace it and live somewhere else. And the timeline, again, you've established when they're going to do this because their house is in escrow right now and they got to get their ass moving. So when you think of that as a lead, that's not a lead. That's just a client. Okay? So a lead is somebody who you have not established all these things for. And that's kind of, where the rubber meets the road when we distinguish between who's a great loan officer and who's a good one to who's a marginal one. Because as we go through here and we deal with leads with Listing Booster right now, we deal with leads with Pre-App 1003, we deal with leads over here with KeyBoom, and we've worked with a number of different products in the past, so we see this all the time. And I consistently see loan officers who have a really great conversion rate with what they're doing here, and then I see loan officers who have no conversion rate. And if you accept the fact that clients are the same in every single market, which they are, then everybody should have the same conversion rate with the same product if they had the same work ethic and strategy that was going into mining those leads. And we spend not just with Listing Booster, we spend so much time getting these leads. We'll spend them, we can do it sweat equity. We can actually spend money on it. We can mine it. We can run into it. We spend so much time on getting the leads, we don't put as much time working the leads. So here's a couple of the questions that I have for you guys. So when a lead comes in, what I want you to do is I want you to quit looking at that lead in a linear sense. And I've talked a little bit about this before, but I want to go over it because I think it's really important. So if you go look at a car, you don't buy the first car you see on the first lot, okay? What happens there is, when somebody's going and looking at cars, they're going to maybe go online, okay? And, they're going to check out different cars. They have an idea what they want. I want a Ford, or I want a truck, or I want, a hybrid, or whatever it is. You kind of have an idea what you're looking for. I want something new. I want something used. And then what you do is you're going to kind of go research that online, right? And that's precisely what people do with houses as well. Now, every single time you click anywhere and you're searching for a car or a house, you, as a prospect, are falling victim to somebody else's marketing efforts, okay? So somebody's going to see, aha, this guy Brian over here, you filled something out, you clicked on the wrong thing, And now all of a sudden somebody's got enough information where they can reach out to you via email, via text, or whatever the case is, that they've gathered information on you because you made your car buying or your home buying intentions known. Maybe you're talking with your neighbor, and your neighbor, you're like, dude, man, I like your truck. And he goes, oh, God, this is a great truck. You know, I went down here to, Lithia Ford, and I spoke with so-and-so over there, and, man, it was great, and this thing is super, super tight. Well, that was not your neighbor talking to you. That was a Mina bird, and it was the marketing efforts of the people at Lithia Ford who were effective enough in their sales and their marketing over to their past client that they're using them to effectively work your friend's database, which is you. So marketing comes in all different ways, shapes, and sizes, doesn't it? And we spend so much time doing this, but we don't look at what we need to do once that lead comes in. So now, if you consider when you're buying a car, you're going to go look online. You're going to probably go to a few lots. You're probably going to test drive a couple of these things before you start to circle in. Now think about that. When you're test driving, you're going to different lots, and you're trying to get a gauge of where you're going to spend your hard-earned money, you don't even want to engage a salesperson, do you? I mean, I saw there was a Google Analytic I just read recently for one of these presentations I did. It's like 80% of the people don't engage a salesperson until they're 57% down the road of actually buying whatever the hell it is they're buying. So think about your own behavior. So when I go to a car lot, if I'm still looking, I might want to ask a question here or there, but I don't want to get the hard sell from that guy, do I? It's like, listen, man, you need to back off here. I'm in the early stages of this. Well, come on, let's take it for a ride. You know, let's get your wife over here. Let's put the kids in the car. What's it going to take to put you in this car right this second? Now. Well, I don't want now, because that's not where I'm at in the car buying process. If you think about that, that can actually turn you off to a transaction. But unlike a car lot, you as a loan officer or a real estate agent, you don't have to just sell the cars on that one lot, do you? You can sell cars on any lot. So the idea is, as a great salesperson, is to not alienate yourself from that potential client, because though they may not be buying right then, right there, when you want them to, doesn't mean they're not going to buy a house. Doesn't mean they're not going to buy a car. So a good salesperson finds a way to stick around and be valuable to that person while they come to terms with what they're going to do. And then all of a sudden, who are they going to work with? Who are they going to talk to? That really helpful, valuable person. Okay? I'm going to grab my charger here. Hang tight. Now, I'll just go in red here. Now, I've said this before. If you've heard it, just please indulge me for a second. But I think, I've told the story time and time again because it's remarkable to me. But I referred my brother, Scott Stevens, my actual brother, to a loan officer who works out here in Petaluma, California, a guy named Jeremy Forcier. And I forgot I did it. I referred it to him because I knew Jeremy would do a good job. And that was kind of in my brother's area. So anyways, Jeremy called me like a year later. And he's like, hey, dude, what's up? And I'm like, hey, how you doing? He goes, oh, I just spoke with your bro today. And I'm like, okay, my bro, your friend, and I'm like, oh, who'd you speak with? He goes, Scott. I go, my biological brother. Oh, you spoke with my brother. Yeah. All right, I'll buy it. Why are you talking to my brother? Oh, I just wrote an offer on a house today. He wrote an offer on a house today. I'm like, did I refer him to you? Yeah. When was that? It was like a year ago. It's like a year earlier. So anyways, Jeremy was doing what every astute salesperson should do. He got a lead from me. A year later, he's calling me back, letting me know that he's taking care of this thing. He's keeping I called my brother up and I said, hey, so how often was Jeremy reaching out to you? He goes, oh, somebody from his office, or he would call me about once a week. I go, he called you once a week? I go, what would he say? He says, nothing. I go, what's nothing? He goes, he just called us check-in. Hey, this is Jeremy over here, and just want to know how things are going. Is there anything we can do for you? Still looking at houses? Yeah, I'm still looking. Okay, well, let us know if we can do anything for you. We might update your stuff down the road a little bit, but just checking in. I asked my brother, I go, how was that? He goes, I thought it was great. Now, why did he think it was great? He thought it was great because Jeremy and his team, and this is the most pushy little loan officer you have ever met. You get him alone, he's a psychopath, okay? But that's not the face that he shows to his consumers. He wants to close the deals. He wants that top producer award. He wants to be that guy. He likes to be that guy. But what he did was, that's not the face that he shows to his consumers, because he's smart enough to figure out that in order to land this guy, he's got to make sure that it's on the consumer's terms, not your term. You know, we as salespeople, guys, we are so hell-bent on just showing up and vomiting on people. It's like what we do is we feel like we have to make you know all of this information. I have to get this to you. We think the job in sales is to actually make you hear the things that we think you need to hear. But if you're not prepared to hear those things, it comes across as really pushy, doesn't it? And really the best thing that you can do in sales is the exact opposite of that. It's really kind of close our mouth and just give the person who you're trying to work with an opportunity to share their thoughts. That's the best way to bridge the gap between you and that potential consumer. Now, again, indulge me if you've heard this, I did a ton of cold calling years ago. And when I did my cold calling, what I did was, I called for months and months and months, and I never closed anything. And I was calling, this was back in 2008, I was calling, you know, the 228s, the neg-ams, the rich areas, the poor areas, and everything in between. I never got anything until one night I was calling down here, and I just so happened to realize that this address was next to this burrito place that made these great carne asada burritos. So when I got on the phone with this guy, I said, hey, I'm like, yeah, you're next to the Burrito Palace over there. And he goes, yeah. I go, those carne asada burritos are awesome. He goes, oh, I know. We started talking about burritos, you know, and enchiladas at this little tiny hole-in-the-wall Mexican restaurant. And we didn't even speak, but he had no idea why I was calling him at this point. I don't recommend that. But it was happenstance. And so what happened was, I sat down there, and after about 10 minutes of talking about different places to eat around town, he's like, so who are you and what's going on? Why are you calling me? But I'd already broken down those barriers, you know, because I just happened onto something that made sense to him. We had established common ground, a place that we had both gone to. I'd established a certain level of geographical competence. He knows I'm somebody from the area. I'm not calling from Bangladesh, you know, with some type of scheme. I'm talking about a local restaurant. Then I talked with him about down payment assistance programs and owning versus renting, that I was, in fact, a local lender. This is a good opportunity and something he might want to consider. I was so beat to shit at this point, I wasn't even trying my hard sell anymore because I just had my ass kicked for months doing this. I said, hey, this is something that you just might want to consider. So I wasn't pushy. And it worked. It worked. The dude converted. He actually could buy a house. It made sense to him. It was like 3 months down the road, but he ended up buying a house. Then I ended up replicating that whole scripting process. And this is cold calls, guys. This is cold. I did not have my budget, need, authority, or timeline established. I was just calling renters and seeing if I could establish one of my 4 criteria. Now, with Listing Booster or any other type of marketing tool, you're going into these conversations with something established. You're going into these conversations with somebody who's already raised their hand and said, I am at minimum interested in looking at a home to purchase. So we know that on 70-75% of these leads. We're going to get the looky-loos out there, but most people aren't going to give you their information to look at a house unless they're at minimum considering buying a house. Now back to my little story. I found a way to replicate this. I brought a bunch of real estate agents in because I figured if I was calling, that's great, but I'm just one voice. If I could do this with 10 real estate agents, now I've got 10 voices going out every 5 minutes instead of my one voice going out every 5 minutes. So I was using leverage, okay, and the need and greed of other people to also succeed at their job in order to get closer to where I needed to be, which was closing more deals, because this was 2008 when everything was broken. So I used leverage there. Instead of my one call, now that I know what works, we're going to use their 10. Okay? So with that said, I want you to consider a couple of things. when you're looking at your leads, and we'll do the next presentation on getting leads if you're still having a hard time with that. But at this point, it should be fairly easy to get a bunch of leads. Okay. The hard part is always in converting. If you get 600 leads and converted them every single time, everybody in the world would want to do loans. And keep in mind, the person who's showing up in your inbox is probably showing up in somebody else's inbox from some other piece of marketing material. Okay. And so, because I, as a consumer, I'm going to look at this house and fall victim to that marketing. I'm going to look at this house, fall victim to that marketing. I'm going to go to an open house and sign a book and fall victim to their marketing. And then I'm going to go home and talk to my neighbor, and my neighbor's going to say, oh, no, use Bob. And fall victim to my neighbor. Bob's marketing with my neighbor. Okay? So when somebody makes their home buying intentions now, keep in mind, guys, there's a whole bunch of people who are going to be working these things at the same time. So it's incumbent upon you to take on the same type of strategies that we're talking about here. So let's revisit this real quickly, okay? The first one is that we need to make sure that we are listening to the people on their terms, not necessarily espousing what we want to do, what we want to tell them. What's the best way of doing this? The best way of doing this is to ask questions. It's just right off the bat, start asking questions. Where do you live? Okay, so what do you own the house right now? You're renting it? You have kids? What do you do on the weekends? Anything. You want them speaking on their terms, and when they have a crack in the dam and they give you an opportunity to talk and really push it towards something they want to talk about, you make sure you keep it on their terms. It's almost like a quasi-shrink relationship, okay? Now, when you're listening to what they're saying, you're going to get to know more about that person, and it's going to put you in a position to be better tailored, to ask more questions, and then become that great resource for them as they're going down this process. Let's not push it down their throat right now to get qualified today. Maybe that's not where they're at. Okay, I'm kind of looking at houses. I don't want to go get my tax returns for you just this second. How do we become invaluable to these people? Because remember, like 80% of the people who are buying a car, buying a house, buying a widget, they don't want to engage a salesperson until they're 57% down the road. Does that mean that we don't want to keep working with that? If you're one of these people who've got 600, 400, 300 leads, no, we absolutely want to keep working with that person, because you may drop them and say that's not a good lead, only to find out 2 months later when they are ready to engage somebody that they moved on to somebody else. Now, it's not as if we're not compensated well when one of these do convert. And the reason I bring that up is because, we're talking about things that could be fairly tedious. And I'm going to give you an answer for that as well. But when you do get somebody to convert as a real estate agent or a lender, a number of wonderful things happen, okay? Not the least of which is you get paid in the thousands, not in the hundreds, in the thousands of dollars, okay? It also helps you cement that relationship with the real estate agent that you're working with or the lender that you're working with. It also puts you in touch with that person whose house you just closed, who you did not know months before, okay? It puts you in touch with their database, and it allows you to influence this who is now your past client to become an advocate for you. The more advocates that you have in your business footprint, the better off you're going to be. How hard is it to be an advocate? It's not hard. But we need to message our past clients, don't we? We need to talk with them and remind them that we are in the business of selling homes and selling loans. Okay? And when you get their database, think about it. This is so, birds of a feather, they, flock together type of thing. Have you ever noticed that when somebody buys a car, everyone buys a car, one person has a kid, all your friends have kids, so one person buys a house? Now all they're doing is talking to their friends. All they're doing is talking to their friends about buying a house. Buying this house, I'm so damn excited about it. Everybody's excited when they're buying the house. They're nervous, but they're excited. And when they start talking with their friends about all the wonderful reasons why they are buying a house and all the wonderful reasons why this is the right neighborhood and all the wonderful, the wonderful loan that they're getting with a great rate and all this stuff, their friends start thinking, you know what? Maybe it's a good time for me to do the same thing. It's just, birds of a feather. So a whole bunch of good things come when you convert these people and you turn them around. Now, if you're one of these people who has 700, 300, 200 leads, do you have time right now to call 700, 300, 200 people? Absolutely no. You don't have time. If you're a loan officer and you've got 25 agents in your listing booster account and you've got 300 leads in there, you don't have the time to call 300 people. I totally get it. Now, remember how I told you when I was doing my cold calling, I would leverage the time of my real estate agents. Okay? Now, your average real estate agent is closing, one side of a transaction per month. And for some reason, they have an escrow, and I know we got real estate agents on here too, so I'm not picking on you. but for some reason you're paying an escrow coordinator to help you out with your one side of a transaction a month. Meaning you've got time. And frankly, paying that escrow coordinator is not a bad idea because that frees you up to do the things that are best for you. Because chances are the real estate agents are going to get paid twice, if not 3 times as much as what that loan officer is going to make on that transaction. So there's a whole bunch of reason and motivation for that real estate agent to coddle and have these conversations. So if you've got 25 agents and you've got 300 leads in there, right? What you're really talking about is 4, 12, 16, 20 leads per agent, okay? So now that becomes a very manageable number. So now if each one of your 25 agents has 12 or I'm doing the math in my head, 12, 13, 14 leads each, what's better, for those agents to be calling those leads or for you to be calling those leads? You, the loan officer, who just wants to do the loan, nothing sexy or fun about loans. People like houses, not loans. Okay, where you're just banging through these people, or you got them on a funnel or some type of drip campaign where it's very, very impersonal? Or is it better for you to sit down with the real estate agents that you're working with right now and say, hey, listen, guys, I got a plan. Now you're each getting X number of leads here. Let's work these personally, because there is a massive payoff on the other side of this. So if you're generating 12 to 16 leads for each one of your agents every month, okay? So say it's 10, it's 120 a year. So say it's 15, it's 180 per year, okay? And they can close one more transaction per month, hell, one every other month, they're going to double their income. I mean, what if each one of your agents, if they did one every quarter, one every 3 months? Think about the enormous amount of money that's involved with that for your agents. Here's the funny part. Each one of your agents does one of these every single quarter. That means you've got 3 more deals per 3 more transactions, 4 more transactions for that agent per year. Let's say you're working with 10 agents. That means 40 more transactions for a loan officer every single year. Everybody wins here, okay? So the goal of the loan officer right now is to sit down with your real estate agents and let's start talking about best habits. Let's start talking about active listening. And let's start talking about having these conversations with these leads on their terms, okay? Now, if you have an agent who's going into it with a dismissive attitude that says these just absolutely are no good whatsoever, well, what they're telling you is somebody who is looking at a house, at minimum considering buying a house, is a bad person for them to talk to. If that's a bad person for them to talk to, I would like to see the gigantic list of people who are better than that they're talking with, because bumping into your sister or your neighbor to buy or sell a house is not marketing. So there's a great positive way that we can do this, but you're leveraging. You're the one who's going to train them up. And you're going to let them know what BANT is with budget, authority, need, and timeline. If you do have funnels that you're working with your office right now, this is a great thing to do. Go ahead and throw them into your funnels. The other thing that you can do here, guys, we spoke about this before, you can go ahead and take your list, your text leads, or you can take your web leads, and you can upload those into any systems that you have. So let's say your real estate agents, we talked about this before, or they're having an open house on Thursday, and they've been using Listing Booster, or Sunday, and they've been using Listing Booster for the past year. They've got a year full of leads in there, okay? Have them upload that entire list and email them. Hey, I'm having an open house. Here's the house. Put the single property website up there with a lead capture on that thing. I'm having an open house this Sunday from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Come on by for cookies. Check out the house. It's absolutely beautiful. Whenever anybody clicks on that property, you'll have a new revised list of people who are still showing interest in that. And there are a lot of people, guys, this is crazy. There are so many people who end up in somebody's database who don't end up buying that house. Again, we spoke about this before. We get hit up all the time to sell our old leads. So we get companies who want to come in and buy our leads that are 6 months old. And so the companies will come in and buy the leads that are 6 months old. They'll go ahead and they'll start calling all of those again. They'll find out who are still in the market to buy a house. They'll shorten that list and then turn around and sell them at a profit to loan officers, real estate agents, who otherwise wouldn't do the work. And these leads, when you talk with these type of companies, most of the leads that they have, by and large, go completely uncalled. So if we sit down and if we can convince our real estate agents that, time blocking out an hour a day or an hour and a half a day to sit down and call some of these leads is going to be in their best interest, and you kind of more or less manage this, hey, how are we doing with these 12 guys? How are we doing with these 12 guys? Rather than you making 200 calls, now you're making 12 calls. You're calling your real estate agents to see how they're doing with the leads that they have in front of them and which ones you think you should scrap or not scrap. What are we doing in the process here? We're having more conversations with our real estate agent partners, which gives us another opportunity to ask for the business from them. Is there anything that you're working on right now that I might be able to help you out with? You're talking with your agents. You're staying highly engaged with your real estate agent partners, which is going to, again, further cement the relationship that you have with them. So I want you to think about these things when you're looking at the leads that you have right now. These are all just highest and best use of your time. There's a site that I found, I like this one a lot right here. It's called CloudKettle. And what CloudKettle does is it's going to talk about funnels and different ways of approaching your leads. But if you just go to cloudkettle.com and you type in BANT here, this is going to give you a bunch of great information. And the last thing I want to show you, and I think this is kind of funny, but it's kind of clever. This was pinned in the early 1900s, okay? Now, so this is a list here, guys, okay? I gave it away up top. This is a list that a guy who went to Alcatraz because he sold the Eiffel Tower a half a dozen times. And he sold the Brooklyn Bridge. He actually even conned Al Capone. But he put together a list, commandments for conmen. And look how strikingly similar these commandments are for what we need to be as salespeople. And if you think about it, sales is the art of persuasion, isn't it? I mean, it's a con. If you think about it, sales is a con, but it doesn't have to be something with a negative connotation, does it? It's strictly persuasion. So from one of the most effective persuaders the world's ever known, he put together a list. I thought this was interesting, and I think it holds true for loan officers and how you approach your clients. Your clients being your real estate agent partners, real estate agents for your listing partners. But check it out. Be a patient listener. Just what we talked about. Put it on their terms, guys. You're having a conversation with somebody who is a prospect you want to turn into a client. Keep in mind, they may not be working in your time frames. It might take longer. But if you're an active listener, you're going to stay in touch with them. Never look bored. You know, if you find out somebody's not buying today, how anxious are we to get on that next call or to run away from this potential client as quick as humanly possible? You know, never look bored. Hugely important. Wait for the other person to reveal any political opinions, then agree with them. I kind of like that, especially in these divisive times we have right now. Let's see. Let the other person reveal their religious views, then have the same ones. Kind of find that funny. Hit at sex talk, but don't follow up on it unless the other person shows a strong interest. That's for guys. Don't become a degenerate pig. I think that's what it means. Never discuss illness unless someone special, some special concern is shown. You ever see this with different salespeople? And this is an easy trap to get into. But if you know somebody's had a bad weekend or they're sick or something, to say, "Oh, how are you doing? Oh my God, you know I've had this headache for 4 days." You don't want to hear that from your salesperson. No matter how you feel, you are always feeling good. You always want to be that person when you walk away. They say, "Hey, that was a good guy to be around. That's a good gal to be around." Never pry into personal circumstances. They're going to tell you eventually, which is absolutely the truth if you ever sold real estate or loans. Never boast. Just make your importance quietly obvious. Never be untidy. And the one I hate the least, never get drunk. But that's the con man's list of how you want to deal with prospects, which is very similar to how I think we need to deal with prospects. Let me go back here. Oh, where are we at? So in any event, guys, pretty straightforward what I wanted to go over today. Like I said, I'm looking at some of these lists that we have, and I'm looking at the extraordinary number of leads that are coming in, and I know that most of these are going uncalled. And so I just, again, look at these lists a little bit differently than you have in weeks past or months past. Engage your real estate agent partners. Convince them it's in their best interest, because it is, to call these leads, to actively listen, to find out who they are, to take notes on their kids, stay in front of them. Because that deal that maybe isn't going down today could be going down tomorrow. And there are a lot of leads. There's a lot of deals that are going unmined in our Listing Booster accounts. With that said, I'll answer any questions anyone might have. Let's see. Anybody? Anybody? Oh, here we go. I don't see anything in here. Alrighty, guys. With that said, we will talk with you next week. And again, reach out to us. Let us know what you want to hear about, who you want to hear from. But I just wanted to give you a little diatribe today. Thanks a lot and have a good day.